So I am Dana Christensen. I am the owner of Tree Hill Learning Centers, in case anyone on here doesn't know who I am. And we've got a couple people from our admin team, and then we've got Ellen and Trisha here too, and they will introduce themselves separately. But we got Megan Height, our executive director, here. She wants to come in and say hi or no or whatever.
I don't have anything other than hi.
If you haven't met Megan before, there she is. She is traveling be between both of the schools. And then we've got Ali Schnell here, who you probably maybe have talked to on, worked with on email. We did invite a lot of people from our waiting list here tonight. So I'm not sure if there's some people here that are on our waiting list waiting to get in, and we're happy that you joined us. I know that these, meetings can be tough and everyone's in the thick of probably dinner and getting your kids down, but happy that you took the time for this really important information. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Trisha.
So hi, I'm Trisha Rogers, and we have a slide to introduce ourselves. So Ellen, you want to say your name as well?
Yes, my name's Ellen, and Tricia and I have worked together on this for you guys tonight. I'm gonna jump ahead to you, Tricia. There you go.
Okay, so I am a speech language pathologist, and I have specialized training in assessing and treating myofunction, oral facial myofunctional disorders. And I'll explain that in a second. And I'm the author of some books for children to help with myofunctional disorders. And OMDs or myofunctional disorders are habits or conditions that can affect how a child's mouth or face rests, breathes, chews, and speaks. So we're going to talk a little bit about the breathing aspect of that tonight. So that's who I am, and I'm happy to be here with y'all.
All right, and my name is Ellen. I have a background in education. So my bachelor's degree was special education and elementary education, and I've taught both of those in public schools. I then went back and got a master's degree in special education, which led me to getting certified as a board certified behavior analyst. And in Washington State, they have us also get licensed through the Department of Health as well as a licensed behavior analyst. So I have both of those for different work that I do. And that means that I work within the field of applied behavior analysis, or ABA. And this is considered to be the science of behavior. And we work on teaching new skills and reducing problem behaviors. And those things can disrupt your daily life and daily functioning. And our overarching goal in doing those things is to enhance the overall quality of life for the people that we work with. And there's a whole slew of different ways that that can be implemented with individuals or groups or organizations. But that's kind of the principles that drive where I'm coming from with my background.
And I'm just going to jump in really quick. Ellen, sorry to interrupt you guys,
Go
but
for it.
I just want to make sure everybody here knows that Ellen is actually our consultant, and she comes in and works with our staff at Tree Hill, both locations, works with the teachers and even admin staff, and helps with a lot of things. I mean, we're really lucky to have Ellen and Trisha too, working with the other side of the speech side of things. So I will mute myself, and you guys can go ahead and get started.
All right. So I guess we need to go back to, yeah. So we are here together because of how we both want and can talk about healthy breathing and how it helps children to learn and thrive. And so ABA and speech pathology or myofunctional therapy are both trying to train or teach new habits or behaviors. And so that's how we have come together. So Ellen, you can take the part about our objectives if you'd like.
All right, so the objectives we're hoping to achieve with you all tonight is to help you understand what regulation is and how you can identify some of our observable indicators of being regulated, to understand why breathing matters and how it relates to regulation, help you learn some strategies to screen your child's ability to do nasal breathing, to learn some strategies and that you can teach and practice for healthy breathing at home with your child, and also give you some next steps if you have concerns about your child's ability to breathe with their nose. All right, so as Trisha was saying before, we really come from two different backgrounds. We have two different perspectives, but one goal that we've come together. And it's been really fun to work together and see how the work we do aligns and how we can support each other. So we're both working towards calm, healthy, and regulated children who are ready to learn. All right, so to start with then, we need to talk about what self-regulation is. So self-regulation is a person's ability to control or modify their own behavior in response to what's happening around them. So dealing with things that come up in your environment, kind of rolling through your day, things that we all do to get through the day. These skills, they're not just something that naturally appear in a child. They need to be taught and practiced. There's many, adolescents and adults that are still working on learning and practicing regulation skills as well. And then as the grown-ups or adults, it's our job to help kids learn these self-regulation skills. So teaching healthy habits, encouraging good behavior, modeling how to handle different problems and situations, and teaching them how to cope with the unexpected and calm themselves. Those all tie into regulation. All right, so then we want to be looking on how we can recognize regulation. And within my field, we always want to look at the behavior of it. And the behavior means what we can observe and measure. So it's not our guess, but we're making any guesses we're drawing from what we can see and observe. So when we're talking about a regulated child, they are calm, they're ready to learn, and we can see that and observe that by looking at their body and seeing that their muscles are relaxed, they're not rigid, they have steady and calm breathing, their movements are gentle and controlled, and they're staying either in their seat or in their space, keeping their body to themselves depending on the age. That will vary greatly. Looking at their face and their voice, we want to have a natural, neutral, pleasant face, a normal tone of voice, a normal voice volume for the situation, and having appropriate eye contact. Looking at attention and focus, are we able to follow directions? Again, that will vary based on age and developmental level. Are we attending to the task that's at hand? That could include, a play task or a toy that we're using for a younger child. Are they able to respond to their name? Are they staying on task for an age-appropriate amount of time? And again, that will vary greatly depending on the age that we're thinking about. For social interactions, are they sharing? Are they taking turns? Are they engaging with other people? Are they using calm language? Can they be redirected? Can they accept no? Can they wait their turn? Things like that. And problem solving or coping strategies. If we've taught them strategies to help them regulate, are they able to implement those? Are they able to respond to our prompts if they need them? And are they able to bounce back and recover fairly quickly after a frustration and move on by using those coping strategies? So these are all things that we can look for to identify if the child is regulated. And that's always our goal, is to help our little humans be regulated. Then on the other side of that, when a child is dysregulated, they are overwhelmed, they're struggling, and their body is going to give us some signs that we can observe that as well. So we're going to see stiff, tense bodies, rigid muscles, some rapid breathing or shallow breathing, coming just up into your chest here, small, short breaths, or sometimes even holding your breath. Sometimes that's unintentional when stress hits. If the child's pacing, maybe they're running away, hiding from something, a tantrum, throwing themselves on the floor, swiping at things, all of those are very clear indicators of dysregulation. Also frowning, looking at the face, grimacing, crying, avoiding eye contact, or even having eyes kind of darting around the room, that can indicate some dysregulation. If we're not able to respond to directions or respond to our name, having, again, our eyes, I said that one a moment ago too, but that eye scanning, that's a very subtle one at times, but that can be an early sign of some dysregulation. If we're refusing to engage or isolating ourselves, that's an indicator of self-regulation. Many people are very aware of shouting or hitting. That's a very clear indication. Or difficulty taking turns or sharing. And then those coping strategies at the bottom aren't happening. Even if they've been taught before, they might not be able to implement those strategies. So they might run away, they might be yelling, saying no, crying, or just shutting down. And that can look a variety of different ways. And with all of these observable indicators, these are general things within working with, your child at home or a child in the school. We always look to, define these more clearly individually as well if we're working specifically with one child, but a good jumping off point for us here. Okay, so then our purpose tonight is really to tie that breathing together with regulation, because we know that healthy breathing is one very simple skill. It's a foundational skill that you as parents and family members and caregivers can teach your child and practice together at home. And there are a variety of different breathing techniques and different strategies, and they can be used in a very big variety of different ways for different purposes. And we're going to go through a few of them tonight, but there's far too many for us to get through in a brief training like this, but we'll get some good ones going. All right.
So in the area of looking at the healthy oral habits, and it matters how your child breathes. So if they're breathing nasally or if they're breathing through their mouth. And a lot of what I do in my specialized training is work with assessing and noticing if children are mouth breathing or adults even too. And can we get them to breathe through their nose? Are they going to be able to? And why aren't they breathing through their nose? Because breathing through your nose is much healthier. So tonight when we're talking about healthy breathing, we're going to interchange the words nasal breathing and healthy breathing. So it's much healthier to breathe through your nose because our nose has filters that it filters the particles so that when it goes into your lungs, it's cleaner. It warms the air for our lungs. The mouth cannot do that. It doesn't do that. It doesn't filter. The nose moistens the air when we breathe, so it goes into the lungs moist. Mouth doesn't do that. Mouth breathing is very drying for the mouth and drying. Breathing through the nose also supports healthy facial growth and development. And so this is where my work overlaps with the dentist and the orthodontist because they are in charge and want the healthy growth and development, and the mouth breathing is where we overlap in that, making sure there's not mouth breathing, but they're nasal breathing. Mouth breathing, nose breathing delivers oxygen more efficiently to the brain and to the body. And so there's the process with that. And it also calms the body and it helps lower the blood pressure. So nasal breathing is our healthy breathing. And so we're the next slide, Ellen, I think you can flip it for me. Let's see. Yes. So what does mouth breathing look like? And so in the lower picture where there's a boy and there's two of him. There's one with a mouth open and one with closed mouth. That is like before and after working on nasal breathing and getting rid of mouth breathing or working through that. There are subtle, if you look in the other side, so it's the corner where there are two boys, a blonde boy, and I kind of call these brothers when I talk about it. So one boy has his mouth closed and the other boy has his lips apart. He is breathing through his mouth. It's very subtle, but that is what's happening. And the other pictures, the mouth is kind of closed. It's not fully open, but these kiddos are still breathing through their mouth or nasal breathing and mouth breathing. And going back and forth, combination breathing can happen. So just wanted to throw some pictures out. So when you're looking at your kiddo and watching for their healthy breathing, as they're learning about regulating and healthy breathing, are they breathing through their nose or are they breathing through their mouth? And so next slide, Ellen's in charge of so another piece of the puzzle for breathing. Talks is breathing at night. And so snoring. It's very important to know night breathing and snoring. Snoring's a warning sign. It's not like a funny sound or something funny that happens. It's a warning sign. And it can mean that a child is working too hard during sleep. Their body's not getting enough oxygen to rest and grow and focus. So there is a sleep questionnaire that is available. You can look at the website for it, and we can, of course, put it in the chat if we need to or send it out, that you can take home and print out and take home and check with your child. Is there some things going on in their sleep that you might want to report back to the doctor about? So that's that. And there's a study that talks about the consequences of sleep disorder breathing in children. And you could take a look at that. But snoring is not a normal thing for anyone, actually, children or adults. And it can be a flag that you need to look into what's happening with your airway and your breathing during sleep. So, on our next slide. So, for that, also talking about nasal breathing. So, these are pictures from the books that I have written about nasal breathing and lips together and the tongue resting correctly. But you want to find out for your kiddos, can they breathe like Mr. Nose here, using his secret superpowers, breathing through his nose. So, we talk about that with kids. This is your secret superpowers to breathe through your nose. So here's a screening guide. You can observe your child during a quiet activity and just they're watching TV, they're on their phones, or they're on watching playing a game or it's something, anything quiet. And look and see, is their mouth open or is their mouth closed? And so if their mouth is open, you can do a simple little screening to see if that's just a habit and they actually physically can breathe through their nose. Or is there something going on like bad allergies that need to get taken care of or anything else like that? So if you have your kiddos close their lips, and a good way to do this is if you put something like in therapy, we use these bread tabs or popsicle sticks or have them put water in their mouth and see if they can hold the water or anything, just keep their lips closed. And if they can do this, relax without any stress, like there's no like, oh my goodness, I can't do this for 3 minutes, then that tells us that the mouth breathing is a habit. For some reason, it's a habit, but there's most likely nothing going on except like this blocking the nose. And sometimes the habit can be if there are allergies that aren't well controlled as we have in our lives. You may like not be able to breathe through their nose, so they're doing the secondary breathe through their mouth, right? Because when we have colds or allergies, that's our second breathing apparatus. But when they actually can breathe through their nose again, they might not use it. So it's a way to like after they've had a cold or after they've gotten through the allergies, can they go back to breathing through their nose? So that way you can look whether it's a habit or if there's something going on. If the child is not able to breathe through their nose, there's a structural or environmental cause like allergies. So bring that up to your physician, or there are myofunctional therapists like myself that work with children or with adults. I'm not directly seeing patients right now, I'm teaching, but there are, and you could reach out to me, I could help you find one that can help you figure out what's going on and help you go in the right direction with that. Or, like I said, with your pediatrician, talk to them about that. And at the bottom, there's the study that was about the nasal breathing, and you can look at that as well. So, disclaimer down there, this is not to be done if your child cannot nasal breathe when you do that little screening comfortably. These are not things that you would want to do, but if it's something that your child can habitually breathe through their nose because you've done that screening, you can start to train a new skill or get a new skill of nasal breathing. So you would pick an activity that you're already doing in your life. You're in the car, they are listening to music, you're playing a board game, anything like that. And see in this picture, we have the adult and the kid with a popsicle stick in between their lips. Because if you have that tactile feedback, then the kids will notice if their mouth comes open because the popsicle stick falls out. Most likely they won't open their mouths and they will just nasal breathe because there's that popsicle or tactile feedback there. Set a timer, let them practice it like for a minute the first day, try it again the next day, add another minute, and you can work up to being able to do it for 5 minutes. And then you can also have the family do this together where you just are all quiet and everybody has a popsicle stick and we're practicing our calm nasal breathing. And it's quiet time for everyone. Tips, daily practice is best. Pair it with activities or routines you're already doing with your child or that they are already doing. Be patient. It takes time to develop this new skill. It takes time to remember that you want to practice it. Repetition is key, and visual aids are very, very helpful. So a picture of the lips that are closed and the nose that you pick out or get off online or something is like, okay, we're going to do our nasal breathing practice. And you can let that, let someone in that was, you can let that be just kind of like a family thing that y'all do together to everyone have this healthy breathing that then helps with self-regulation and just healthy for your body as well. Okay, go ahead. Take it away, Ellen.
Okay. So now that Trisha's given us some information on using that nasal breathing for our daily healthy breathing and changing those habits and patterns, how does this affect learning? So the brain needs a steady supply of oxygen to pay attention, to learn, to remember information, and to solve problems. That problem-solving piece ties straight into that regulation and coping. That was that bottom one in those tables on the other pages, using our coping strategies, problem-solving unexpected things. So having this healthy breathing as our daily habit helps us be ready for that. When children or any human, including all of us, when we can breathe, we feel safer and more in control. We can focus better on what we're doing. For children, that's learning and playing. And a big critical piece is responding instead of reacting. When there is something unexpected, when we encounter a stressor, are we reacting to it or are we able to respond using our learning, using things that have worked well for us in the past? So by helping your child take calm breaths, you're helping them to reset their body and get back to a state where they can learn and play. And that's kind of helping them move between that dysregulated state back to a regulated state. All right. And all of this on this slide is a really big topic, and we're not diving deep into it. Some of you may know the terms parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system, and some of you may not. Don't get hung up on that right now if that is not something familiar to you. It's helpful to think of it as a relaxation response or a stress response, that fight, flight, or freeze space, or a calm state. So when we breathe deeply, this activates our nervous system, and that is activating our parasympathetic nervous system. And it is like triggering a relaxation within the brain and the body. I'll tell kids it's like we flip a switch in our brain to help our body. And this system is going to help slow the heart rate. It's going to relax our muscles and help that brain shift out of that fight, flight, or freeze state. So back out of that dysregulated state. And you can see, like, relax the muscles. That was one of those indicators on the list on the previous slide. If our muscles are relaxed versus tense, how are we able to breathe? Those were on that list as well. So if we're able to do those breaths, it's going to help put us back in that relaxation state. So if you try some of the strategies that Trisha just spoke to you about, and your child is routinely nasal breathing, you're making good success there, or it's a pattern they already had and it wasn't something you need to work on. Then we're going to focus on some other breathing techniques for you. And if your child is, when you do Tricia screening, if you have that mouth breathing pattern, my recommendation, and Tricia, interrupt me if you think, would be to focus on Tricia's recommendations first and get that healthy pattern going first before you're adding on multiple other things.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are a lot of different breathing strategies that we can teach and use both with ourselves, with humans, adults, children, all of us benefit from these things. So we picked two to focus on tonight. Diaphragmatic breathing is a big, important skill. Again, some of you may know that term and some of you may not. It's helpful to remember it's low, slow, and calm breathing, those deep breaths. So,
and I'm just going to interject.
Yes, please.
It says diagrammatic
Oh,
breathing when it should say diaphragmatic.
diaphragmatic. Thank you very much.
I just
Thank you.
noticed that. Yeah,
That is
there
incorrect.
we go.
Yes, down in the first bullet point, you can see
Right.
diaphragm spelled correctly. Thank you,
Right.
Tricia.
Yeah, and the picture too. So yeah, just
Yes, I
ignore
apologize
that
for that.
spelling that we got wrong. Yes.
Yes. So this is using your diaphragm, which is a muscle at the bottom of your lungs. When we inhale, we want to move that diaphragm down. This makes room for your lungs to fill up with air. Then when we exhale, it's going to move back up and push that air out. Thinking back onto that dysregulation slide again, one of those indicators was shallow breathing. Oftentimes we breathe very shallow up high in our chest here. If you even stop and notice your breathing now, is it happening in your chest or is it going low down into your belly? So those are two different breathing patterns. And this, we're focusing on that deep, low, slow, and calm breathing. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of this is to help children relax if they're upset, if they're dysregulated, if they're anxious. This is something that we can use to help calm them. For the sake of teaching it, we want to make sure that we're teaching and practicing it when they're calm. If the only time we're trying to work on this is when they are already dysregulated, it's going to be stressful for us as the adults and harder for the child to learn. And you may even inadvertently make the tantrum or the dysregulation worse in that moment by placing unfamiliar demands. So we always want to practice it and teach it when there's calm time. Focusing on having that belly rise, the movement should be in your belly and your chest staying still. And placing, as in the photo there, that little boy has one hand on his chest and one hand on his belly. That's one way to monitor if the chest is staying still and the belly is rising and falling. Laying on our back is another great way to do this. And I'll have kids sometimes put a stuffy or some sort of preferred item to make it more fun on their tummy and see if they can watch that item rise up as they're breathing the air down into their diaphragm, and then watch that item go back down as their belly sinks back towards the floor and that air is pushed up out through the lungs. So one that lots of teachers are familiar with, some parents might be familiar with, and that's very kid-friendly, is calling it smell the flowers and blow out the candle. So taking that slow, deep breath in through your nose and pretend that you're smelling a flower. That's a good visual for kids in their mind. That's a great one to find, print some pictures off, take screenshots on your phone so you can show them that flower to practice it and go. And blow that candle back out. And having those visuals is very, very helpful. And having those hands placed is very helpful there as well.
And yes, and interjecting in this aspect of doing the diaphragmatic breathing or a calming piece in this, you'll notice that Ellen's talking about inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. That's for like when you're doing a relaxing or a de-stressing. So that's the time when the air is coming out of the mouth. But in typical healthy breathing, it's usually in the nose all of the time. And y'all will think of this too as like when you're doing yoga or you're trying to do we've talked about that. I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. And once you're used to doing this, you can do it both in and out through your nose as well. But for teaching children specifically, having the language of a candle and the picture and that out through the mouth. But Trisha's absolutely right. There's times where, adults will do this with both the nose and the mouth or solely through the nose. And anyone familiar with a yoga class, you may have experienced some of that and different strategies and different language around it as well.
Correct. Yes.
And this too, our purpose tonight is talking about supporting children and teaching your children. But these strategies are also something that you can work on yourself. These are great regulation strategies for yourself as a parent. If your child is escalated and dysregulated and engaging in challenging behavior, you're likely feeling a lot of stress in that moment. So practicing this when you're calm and having this tool in those stressful moments is very, very helpful. I've trained my body to do that throughout my career. I'm in some extremely stressful environments throughout my days, and this helps my brain stay in that problem-solving mode so I can keep coaching and teaching and helping everyone move through challenge. If I start holding my breath and moving into that dysregulated state, I would be much less effective at my job. So breathing is helpful in my position. All of the teachers at Tree Hill, I talk to them about these strategies, and as parents, these are great things to practice, and you'll be a better teacher for your child when you're fluent in the skill as well. And then another strategy, some of you may have heard of and some not. This is a strategy called alternate nostril breathing. A kind of kid-friendly name for it would be calling it nose switching. You can get creative and come up with some other names that work for your family as well. And there's a picture on this one that helps if you're not familiar with it. But this involves closing one nostril at a time and breathing back and forth through the one nostril. And this helps balance our breathing, and it also is tied to our nervous system and helps our body to calm down, helps us get back to focusing and problem solving. This one is an important one to be able to model for your child, since it is a little bit more complicated. You're going to also want to think, is your child ready for this type of skill? Can they use their fingers and their fine motor skills to imitate what you're doing on your face? And if so, you want to keep it fun, do it together, inhale one side, exhale on the other, and utilizing this, teaching when they're calm, and once they learn the skill, it's great to use it before transitions or any situation that you know is stressful. So you're helping them regulate before they encounter that known stressor. So in the picture, she's using her ring finger and her thumb, and that's kind of the proper way to do it. But for children, it can be helpful to modify that a little bit. So if you put the two fingers on your forehead, you can easily use your thumb and your ring finger to go back and forth. With a child, I'm sorry, I need my glasses. I can't see anything. Using one finger
And the other.
and one finger and going back and forth. So I'm going to talk through it and then I'll model it if you guys want to try practicing it as well. I have the little linear line at the bottom there that's helpful, but we're going to close one nostril first. So if you close your left nostril first, you're going to inhale through the right, breathe in slowly, switch your finger to the other nostril and exhale slowly through the left. Keep your finger where it is and inhale through the left. Switch the finger and exhale through the right. Keep that finger there. Inhale through the right. Switch your finger and exhale through the left.
And it can get complicated or in your brain to do this, but if you know that you're inhaling and exhaling on one side, and then you go to the next side and inhale and exhale, you'll be doing it as best you can, especially with if the situation's a little bit stressful for an adult, or because sometimes I'm doing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, which way am I supposed to be doing it? But
Absolutely.
inhale and exhale on one side and then switch to the other. Helps
And
you
before you do this with your child, practice it when you're calm and see what hand positions work better for you. For my brain, this position and using the ring finger and the thumb are easier for my brain to keep track of where I'm at versus moving my hands back and forth, side to side. That ends up getting more confusing for me. But give it a try, see what's comfortable for you, and get a little bit of fluency going for yourself before you start working with your children on this. But this is a really good strategy, and this would be the most complicated. Clearly, you might have fumbled through it a little bit. So work on first the nasal breathing that Trisha provided the steps for. When you're having success with that, move on the diaphragmatic breathing, that deep, slow, low breathing, and then add this as another strategy. And if these are things that your family is seeing success with, there are tons of resources out there of different, apps you can get, books you can get, different cards you can get, a whole slew of things. So you don't have to stick with these two, but we chose these tonight to as a good jumping off point and a starting place for you. All right. So for additional support and next steps, we do want to teach and practice that nasal breathing, as Trisha was teaching us. This is going to benefit all children to be healthy and support that self-regulation. That's the most healthy and natural way for our bodies to breathe. Teaching and practicing the deep breathing strategies, the two examples I just showed you, this is going to help support our nervous system and help us regulate. Some children are going to benefit from these, and some children are going to need some more specific instruction on additional skills. Many of us as adults, we have more than one tool in our toolbox that helps us get through our day, that helps us cope with the unexpected. We do more than one thing. So we want to have more than one thing for our children as well. And some children will need specific strategies. Self-regulation is really complex. So if you stop and really think and break down your day of how many things you do to help your body, the list can get quite long. And as adults, we have learned our coping strategies and learned our calming strategies. And many times we implement them without even thinking about it, which is ideal. So children then who do engage in routine problem behaviors, challenging behaviors, they're going to benefit from more individualized interventions and having additional support to help you as the parent or the family or caregiver identify what those skills are, as well as how to break them down and teach them. If you're stuck in a hard place and you're feeling like you're not making the progress that you would like and things are challenging, there are ways to help you move through that. So that again is focusing on learning new skills, specifically learning what we call replacement behaviors to decrease problem behaviors. So if anytime we're telling an individual that we need them to not do something, it's our job to specifically teach them what to do instead. So that's where that replacement skill comes in.
Right. And to add to what, and we'll talk about this here, to add to what Ellen was saying, if, again, if nasal breathing is not happening, or it's a struggle for your child to learn how to do it, or trying to incorporate that in life, there's help out there as well for that. So in summary, healthy breathing is a foundational skill to support regulation and learning. And we've talked about steps and tools. You can screen to determine if mouth breathing is a habit or a necessity. First, you need to look and see if you notice that they're mouth breathing or nasal breathing. And then you can screen to see if it's a habit or if it is a necessity and what you need to do about that. Teach and practice the skills of nasal breathing. If it's a habit, you can use times to pair with existing activities that are quiet activities within your family's environment and what your child enjoys doing or that you and your child can do together. A lot of times I would tell my patients to have them play a board game that's enjoyable, that you don't have to talk to, Candylands like that. And everyone has the popsicle sticks in their mouth, or nobody can talk during that, and they just play it for 10 minutes and then move on. That's something if you want to add an activity, but there are activities in your life that are quiet, and look for those to pair it with existing visuals while teaching and practicing. And repetition. The whole reason why I had written these books that I used in my practice was for the visual and the repetition, so that kids understand why they're learning, why they need to nasal breathe, and what their nose needs to be doing, and just repetition. And the books are one way, doing the activities daily is another way. There are plenty of ways to get repetition in and pair it with your existing habits or routines.
All right. And then we did provide you with the 2 strategies for the deep breathing. So the diaphragmatic breathing and the alternate nostril breathing. And then what to do if you do observe the difficulty or inability, as Tricia spoke to. She had the links to the questionnaire for sleep, and what to do if you do observe mouth breathing due to necessity, and making sure you're following up on that to see what else can, what supports you can get in place and identify what's driving that limitation there. Okay.
And yeah, I just saw there was a question in the chat, so we can get to that. And there's the questionnaire for sleep and recommended sleep and recommended next steps for observed mouth breathing due to a necessity. And I saw the question quickly. I think it had to do with pacifiers.
Yeah.
Can you see it, Ellen?
Yes, it says, is this a portion of why pacifiers help children calm down because it forces nasal breathing?
That is a great question and a great putting everything together. Pacifiers, because yes, you're nasal breathing, but also you're getting this feedback is either like the tongue gets feedback for regulating as well. And if the pacifier's in there, it happens with the if the pacifier's not, it's at with the roof of the mouth, the tongue making contact with the roof of the mouth. Pacifiers are great. And I will say they're great for up to a certain age. And then you need to try to get them to not use that. And the tongue needs to rest on the roof of their mouth. And that's another part of one of my specialized training is talk about the tongue, the nose, the lips, and the tongue. So, and then there's another, a thank you. And someone has a question? Yes.
Elaine, yeah.
Yeah, so mine also kind of goes with the question that Lauren asked in the chat of how early in age do you recommend practicing these techniques? Because I have a 2.5-year-old, and I'm concerned putting a popsicle in his mouth means it's just going to be splinters in his mouth. So,
yes.
But I think at 2.5, we need a lot of help with this. It seems like it also an ideal age to start practicing this.
It absolutely is. Yes. The popsicle sticks. Yes. These are the ones that I use are food grade that literally are the popsicles. But yes, a 2.5-year-old, 3, yes, I've done it with 3-year-olds, 2.5, you're starting. Okay. The reason why it's just modeling, the lips closed and, and nasal breathing. And there are visuals aids, like my books actually have the lips closed and so you can find a pair of lips online and you just like, lips closed, nose breathing, and just start talking about that. The lips like to stay together. They want to stay together. And the nose has superpowers, like a super power, what are they called? Superman. And so they use those to use the nose. And so, yes, start talking at that age because it's the sooner the better. You're exactly right. The sooner the better.
Trisha,
Um,
can you drop in the chat a couple links and specifically for people to order your books
yes,
if they
certainly.
want
If I
to do
can,
that?
yes.
Okay.
Where is the,
And I
yes,
agree with that too. The more that we're modeling this and talking about it with children, no matter how young, we're laying that foundation. So definitely thinking about, the age and what is appropriate, what you're putting near your child's mouth. Um, but they're listening to us, they're wanting to engage with us. So
yes,
setting those habits from the get-go and bringing up with those healthy habits is in many ways easier to teach than having to unlearn poor habits.
yes, exactly. Okay,
And
so
with the diaphragmatic breathing, that also is kind of the natural state of young children. If you watch young children, their bellies rise and that breathing is happening more naturally. And with time and more stressors in life, our patterns morph into that chest breathing and that shallow breathing. So building on that skill that is there with your child is again going to be easier than letting them morph into losing that natural ability of that deep diaphragmatic breathing and then having to relearn it. And so often when children are doing things, I look for ways just to praise them and label it and identify the things they're already doing. And that's a great way to start that conversation versus, oh goodness, how do I find a way to bring this up with my 2-year-old? But, the books are great and just do some observing for a few days and let your brain start clicking about what's already happening and what you think you do want to try and teach. Because you might be surprised what you see with what things they are doing already too, and you can build off of those.
right. And I saw a question. It was Lauren. It says, sorry, so what age should we start? I'm still not clear. Do you mean start about nasal breathing, or do you mean starting with some of the special breath, like the diaphragmatic breathing and the alternative nasal breathing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously some of that, the alternative nasal breathing, that's going to be more advanced, but like I have a 15-month-old, so I guess I'm just kind of
What?
wondering what basics we can start with at this
So
age.
yes, great. So babies, as far as breathing, nasal breathe, like babies are born to nasal breathe. So if that's happening, then that's great. And if are you thinking about self-regulating too? You want to know more about when to start that?
Yeah.
Okay, Ellen, take that one.
Mhm. I think that, all of these things can be start young. And again, thinking about the things that they are doing. If your child is nasal breathing, just be talking about it. If they are watching their belly rise, talk about that, modeling things that you're doing, even if you're doing nothing with them, oh, that surprised me when that milk spilled. I'm going to stop and take a deep breath and model that behavior. That helps my body and my brain, and I narrate what I'm doing. I put on kind of an over dramatization of how I'm problem solving things, and you're going to just tailor it to the age. I love to use that term, that was a surprise or that was unexpected or whatever word is going to resonate with your child, because those are those moments that nervous system starts turning from regulated to dysregulated when we encounter those stressors, when we encounter those surprises. And within our body, how our body physically responds to a happy, exciting surprise and something fearful is very, very similar. If you think of a time, even yourself, when you're excited about something versus when you're nervous or scared, how your body reacts, your breathing, might get sweaty palms, all of those things that are back on those lists. So helping children identify those. Some children kind of accidentally start being fearful of any surprise or anything that was out of their routine or out of what they expected in that moment. So as much as we can help them learn to cope with those things and just labeling that for them and modeling it for them, so if your little kiddo is startled, they drop their toy I watched a little boy, he had a little like Tupperware thing full of water he was carrying. He was probably 18 months old, 17, 18 months old, and he accidentally dropped it and it splashed all up on him and he almost started to cry. And then he stopped to look at it and laugh. And we talked, wow, that was a big surprise, but it was a fun surprise. Your body took a breath and then your body laughed. You know, we didn't know that would happen, but it was really fun. So just labeling and kind of narrating through those things. Those are the moments that as adults we often like, we start holding our, how are they going to react? Are they going to cry? Are they going to brush it off? Are we going to roll through this? Or is it going to be a 20-minute meltdown? We don't know. Those are the moments to start labeling and helping. Those are those teachable moments to start going with. And if you're seeing patterns in your child, that's when you want to start doing more specific teaching if there's something that's always a trigger. That's kind of a different, but just your day-to-day life, labeling the things that are happening with them and labeling the things that are happening with you. You can start that at any age. I talk to a friend of mine has a 3-month-old, and I'm talking to that baby all the time about things. And you just start with where you're at. I don't that we didn't give you a clear month or year on that, but it depends on your habits and your family. I think a lot of it, but just talking about it is so helpful. Kids are
Mhm.
listening at all ages.
Mhm.
I wanted to chime
Dana's
in
head up and
too.
down.
If I could chime in too, is my mic
Absolutely.
on? Just thinking about ages and, when we're seeing dysregulated behavior and tantrums, to use tantrum is just like a blanket phrase, right? We think about 2-year-olds as being the tantrum age, and that's true. But where tantrums really become problematic is 3 and 4 years old. And when your 3 and 4-year-olds don't have those coping skills and those regulation skills, it can be really, really hard to re-regulate. My 4-year-old has just realized we're on a meeting and wants to be a part of it. Um, and the earlier you can try to teach any of these regulation skills, the better, the more helpful they are. And, even little things like as we get into cold and flu season again, you're all going to be asking me how to teach your kiddo to blow through their nose, to blow boogers out of their nose. This is coming up on a great time to practice that. But yeah, we really see a strong need for kiddos to have these regulation skills. Because as rare as it is at Tree Hill for us to send a kid home for behavior, 98% of the time when it's happened over the decade plus I've been at the school, it's been because a child cannot leave that dysregulated state to the point where we can't sometimes even get near that child. So it's very rarely that extreme, but this is all good stuff to practice with your kiddo.
And I don't see another question. I had one other thing that Megan and I have talked about a lot, and with Dana and other parents and teachers I've worked with there, with those young ages as well. Building up those early communication skills can help kind of avoid some of those stressors as well. Even if your child can't talk, doesn't mean that they're not engaging in communication and telling you things. As a parent, you're learning to anticipate what they want and what they need. If they're pointing at something, if their eyes are looking at something, if they're reaching at you to be picked up. I label those things all the time too. Oh, I see you looking at the bear. I can bring you the bear. When you were tapping the table, I knew that you couldn't reach. When your arms reach up at me, I know you want to pick up. Teaching them to tap your leg, all the things that they do that you're learning to read the cues of your child, be labeling those things for them as well, so that you're teaching them when you do these things, I'm understanding you. Because when kids feel misunderstood, that can sometimes end up in those dysregulated states too, or lead to they think that they haven't been understood, so then they're going to try a different way to be understood. And maybe the first way was the best way, but they didn't feel like it was effective. So all of those things that you're doing to understand your child, be teaching them that they're working.
Yes. These are all, really good information. Thank you, Ellen and Trisha. It's been amazing. And I talk about some of these things all the time. I mean, some people are gonna feel like this sounds really stupid, like this sounds really silly that I'm narrating what I'm doing all the time, but it is so helpful for your children. And every single day when I'm in the schools, I see those, a situation happens and a child looks me right in the eye, like, how do I need to respond to this? And we're constantly helping them through that. We have to, we're teaching them how to respond and regulate. And so parents can do a lot and help with this. And so I think this has been great, and we really appreciate it. And yes, Megan and I are looking for, other topics and interests. We've got a lot of ideas on upcoming Zooms and webinars to do for parenting. And so we're very interested in what you guys want to learn more about. We have great resources, especially with both Trisha and Ellen and Megan with all of her years of experience and education and background. And, Allie's getting her degree at ASU and doing what Ellen does. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of ideas, and we want to hear from you guys some more. So, please reach out to us, and hopefully, Trisha and Ellen, if you guys could put your contact information too in. I know,
Oh, yes,
I meant to say
I
that
did. I
earlier, like,
just took this down and we did have one more slide on it. Let me share.
oh, okay, good, with your
there
contact
what
info.
and someone was asking if the slides can be available via email.
Yes.
Yes, that would be a yes.
Well, so we are recording this, as you know, and we will have a member of our team will be editing it and cutting it down and making it into a YouTube video. So we will, as soon as that is done, it takes a little while to get that done, but as soon as that's done, we will be sending that out to everybody. But in the meantime, please take note of Trisha and Ellen's
Yeah,
information, and especially Trisha's books that she has written. They're awesome. And this is just amazing information. And I just can't thank you both enough for
you
taking
are.
your time out to
It was.
educate everybody on this. So I think it's great.
Thank you for having us. And truly, anybody reach out if you have questions, email me. Same with Ellen. Just let us know if you have follow-up questions or as you're processing this too, and you're like, oh, wait, this is happening. Just reach out.